Here's exactly what you're about to discover. How to spot the early warning signs of a head gasket failure. The difference between a leak that sealants can stop and a leak that means game over. And the one installation detail that decides whether your car survives or ends up in the shop. By the end of this video, you'll know which option saves you thousands and which one will leave you stranded. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What if the first clue your head gasket is failing isn't smoke, but something as subtle as milky oil on the dipstick? That thin, cloudy layer might look harmless, almost like condensation from cold mornings, but it can be the earliest and most important sign that coolant is creeping where it doesn't belong. And once coolant and oil mix, every moment you keep driving pushes your engine closer to failure. The tricky part is that the first symptoms rarely look dramatic. Instead, they're often small changes that drivers dismiss as random quirks. A faint, sweet smell after shutting off the engine, a slight drop in the coolant level that seems like evaporation, or a rough start in the morning. On their own, these issues don't scream, blown head gasket, yet they are often the very beginning of it. That's why so many people miss them until it's too late. By the time you see puffs of white exhaust smoke pouring out the tailpipe, the problem is no longer small. That smoke is steam produced when coolant spills into the combustion chamber and burns off during each cycle. If you ignore it, you'll soon notice the temperature gauge rising faster than normal, sometimes climbing straight into the red on hot days or during long drives. Overheating is one of the most dangerous outcomes, because once the engine gets too hot, the cylinder head itself can warp, and at that point the only repair is a full teardown. One of the easier tests you can do at home is check the dipstick. If the oil isn't its usual amber or dark brown, but looks frothy and creamy, that's a major warning. Oil should never look like it has coffee creamer mixed in. That texture comes from coolant and oil swirling together, and when that happens, the lubrication system loses its ability to protect moving parts. Eventually, bearings, cams, and pistons start grinding against metal surfaces with little protection. Another red flag is bubbling in the coolant reservoir. When combustion gases leak past the gasket, they find their way into the cooling system. Instead of calm fluid cycling smoothly through, air pockets form and force bubbles up into the tank. Even if no smoke is pouring out the back, those bubbles mean gases are intruding where they don't belong, building pressure that can push coolant out through the overflow. Unexplained coolant loss should also make you pause. If you top up the reservoir only to find it low again a week later without visible leaks under the car, that fluid is going somewhere. Often, it's seeping through the gasket into the cylinders or mixing with engine oil. Neither is good. And while topping up may keep the car drivable for a while, it masks the real issue and creates even bigger damage over time. Here's why these seemingly small problems matter. Coolant in the oil destroys lubrication. Lost compression robs power and efficiency. Rising heat weakens aluminum components faster than you'd expect. What begins as a minor inconvenience can spiral into a repair bill in the thousands. At first, a leak might only create slight pressure loss, but let the car overheat just once, and warped components mean you're past the point of no return. In some cases, though, a car with a failing gasket isn't completely doomed. If it can still idle and drive for 15 to 20 minutes without the temperature gauge climbing into the danger zone, then the damage might not be catastrophic yet. This is exactly when chemical sealants have a fighting chance of plugging the leak and saving you money. But here's the real question. Does pouring a sealant into your radiator actually solve the problem? Or does it only cover it up long enough to leave you stranded later? Could a $40 bottle of liquid really save you from a $2,500 repair bill? For many drivers staring at signs of a blown head gasket, that question becomes the turning point. On one side, you have the nightmare scenario of removing an entire engine head, machining it flat, replacing the gasket, and hoping nothing else was damaged in the process. On the other, you see a shelf full of sealants at the parts store, promising you can pour, idle, and magically drive away as if nothing happened. The massive difference in cost makes it tempting to test the shortcut, but whether it actually works is not as simple as those bold labels make it seem. Head gasket sealants are marketed as a quick alternative to tearing down the motor. They're designed to save you from a shop invoice that feels more like a used car down payment. But here's the problem. While some drivers swear the stuff saved their daily commute, others call it nothing more than snake oil. The truth is stuck somewhere in the middle. Sealants can and do hold pressure in certain conditions, but they also fail just as often, sometimes leaving owners in an even bigger mess than when they started. So, how do these products even work? Most of them use a formula that contains small particles floating in a liquid base. When the fluid circulates through the cooling system, it remains inactive until it encounters extreme heat or escaping combustion gases. At that hot spot, the particles bind together and form a barrier, essentially trying to patch the weak spot inside the gasket. Think of it as a chemical band-aid that hardens in the exact place it needs to, blocking the path between the combustion chamber and the coolant passages. Not every sealant is created the same way. Basic options might use simple sodium silicate or fiber additives that work under heat. Those are usually engineered for temporary results, and in some cases, don't even mix well with standard antifreeze. More advanced products, like those marketed under names such as Bars Leaks HG1, are designed to be compatible with existing coolant and stay suspended without clumping throughout the system. They often advertise themselves as permanent solutions, though even they can't overcome a severely warped head or a gasket that's already blown apart. There are also specific instructions that make or break the outcome. Some sealants require you to drain the antifreeze first, replace it with water, remove the thermostat, and then run the car at high idle for 20 to 30 minutes while the sealant cures under heat and pressure. That procedure alone carries risks. If your car already struggles to stay cool at regular idle, forcing it up to high RPMs for half an hour may push it over the edge. A big plume of steam halfway through the process tells you the gamble is lost. Success and failure stories create the most confusion. Some drivers report gaining months, even a year, of extra service from their cars after a sealant treatment. They drive to work, run errands, and keep their cars on the road without major symptoms resurfacing right away. Others describe clogging in the heater core, reduced flow in the radiator, or coolant passages blocked so badly that the engine overheats even faster than before. The same bottle that saves one vehicle can ruin another, which is why mechanics call these products a gamble. The deciding factor often comes down to one simple test. Can your engine run at high idle for at least 15 minutes without creeping into the danger zone? If it can, the sealant has a chance to circulate, reach the breach, and solidify against the escaping gases. If it can't, the chemical never has time to work, and you're left with yet another overheated engine. The real trick isn't the sealant itself. It's knowing if your engine is still healthy enough to benefit from it. A car that can run without overheating still has a fighting chance, but one that cooks itself in minutes is past the point where chemicals can help. That means the smartest move is spotting the early warnings: milky oil, bubbling coolant, unexplained fluid loss. Don't ignore them. Check now, diagnose properly, and only risk a sealant if the heat is still controlled. Because sometimes the smartest repair isn't fixing, it's deciding when to walk away from an engine on the brink.